What's up, everyone? All right, so today I'm going to take you for a ride in the 1961 Volkswagen 23-window Microbus Deluxe. This is 1,200 cc's, also 1.2 liters, same thing, but 1,200 cc's sounds a little bit bigger. It's only got 40 horsepower, so this is not a lot different than a high-powered lawnmower, and I'm going to give you a cold start, and you're going to hear this kitten purr. One of the things I love about this car is that it has such a unique sound. It has this kind of like, it's like a chain. I mean, it's got this really awesome sound. It's obviously a small engine, and just the way it kind of has this, like, it sounds like a chain, like this kind of like, I don't know. Anyways, you'll hear it, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's jump into this episode, Tire Kickers Driving the 1961 Volkswagen Bus. We're going to start with the cold start. All right, so here we go with the cold start. Key in the ignition, turn in neutral. It's a 6 volt system, not 12 volts. So it sometimes does take a little before it rolls over. First try. And so you can hear it there. Yeah, no problem at all. Turns over on the first try, sounds good. You can hear that nice idle. And then you can hear that chain sound as it gets higher in the RPMs. Yep, that's nice. It's no Mustang, but you know, in its own right, it's got a nice tone. I like it. All right, everyone, so before we take it for a ride, let's walk around the bus and talk a little bit about the details of it. So this is a 1961 Volkswagen bus. These were produced in quantity. These weren't very limited productions like some of the other cars, but most of them were driven and enjoyed, which means not many have actually stood the test of time very well. And so finding one that's in really good condition, now 60 years later, has become quite difficult, and they have become very valuable. With some at auction in pristine condition with really low miles going over $250,000, which is kind of mind-boggling, but it speaks to the fact that this is an iconic vehicle, and it's one that people who can afford to have one in their collection want to have in their collection, and it is a lot of fun to drive. So it's a 23 window, and so if we go around, we can count them. So we've got 4 on the top here, so 4 on the top and 4 on the top on the other side is 8. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and 4 on the other side. So 8 and 8 is 16. Now let's go around the back. We've got 16, we've got 17 here on the corner, we've got 18, 19, now let's come up here, 20, 21, 22, and 23. So, and then one of the things that's also kind of neat about these buses is that they have the open sunroof. So this sunroof right here with a manual latch, I don't know if you can see it that well, but it's right here. So you go like that, and then you can pull this all the way back, and it's on a little track, so it just slides back. And so for folks that are sitting in the back here, you get this awesome experience of kind of the view and, you know, the fresh air and everything else. You could probably fit 9 passengers in here without too much problem, 3, 3, and 3. If you wanted to put more, you could put more, but you'd run into an issue, which is weight, and it would slow down the car. From a technical perspective, I'll open this. There's a couple different variations of the buses, both in ones that they sold that had just a flat roof, so it didn't have any of these windows up here. So let's see, so that would have been the 13 window bus. Yeah, because we're at 23 and then we take off 8. And then I'll talk about the 11 window in a second and the 21 window. But this is a 23 window, and then with just the flat roof would have been a 13 window. In the back, you can see this kind of pops down, lets you crawl into the back if you wanted to. And one of the things that is pretty valuable are buses that have the walk-through. So this has a full bench on the front, but some of them had 2 captain seats and then a walk-through, kind of a pass-through. And those are really nice, and those are pretty collectible because they weren't as common of an option. The doors, you can see obviously this nice metal, and the way this seat clips down at where it sits right here, you push this and then that's gonna just latch into place. So I'll do that with my knee, and there we go. So that door is latched. And for what it's worth, this car, as you can see, was fully restored. Now, originality is important with any collectible car, and so that kind of takes a couple different forms. You can have a car that has original engine, original transmission. That's all part of making it more valuable. And then you can have cars that also have original paint. Original paint, when you're talking about a 60-year-old car, that's very hard to come by. You're not going to see it, you won't see it often. Most of them have been repainted. And paint 60 years ago isn't what it is today, so the paint did peel. But this one's been repainted and restored, so it's original in those senses, but perhaps not as valuable as one that had been original paint. Coming up in the front on the 23 window bus, so this right here is an indicator of an early bus. These directionals being as small as they are. In 1963, these directionals became little circular discs, so they got a little bit bigger. And from 64 to the end of the production of this van, they also changed the rear right here. So instead of having these corner windows, they took them out and put in a bigger window right here. And so those buses went from 23 windows down to 21 windows starting in 1964 model year. So likewise, a 1964 with a hard top, instead of having 13 windows, because these two came out, had only 11 windows. So when you talk about 1963 and earlier, you're talking about either a 23 or a 13 window bus, and when you're talking about 1964 and later, you're talking about 11 window or 21 window. Now, the later ones also had different taillights right here that became more of a kind of little rectangle. They came up a little bit higher like that. So the round lights and the smaller directionals in the front are easy indicators of an earlier bus, and obviously the corner window here making it a full 23 window. Finding these buses that still have these sort of this little fence, this little gate, the bars, is also on the more difficult side. Now to open the trunk, or the hood, as it were, because it's the trunk, the engine's in the back, we have the church key right here. So the church key goes in to this little spot right here, and just got to get it right. And then like that, we can open up the engine. And you can see this is clean in this area as well. This whole car having a full restoration performed in California. So very, very simple engine, a small engine, but you know, for what it was in 1961, well, it didn't perform super well. I mean, let's be honest. This car probably never achieved any top speed records. It's probably always a little on the slow side, and that certainly continues to be the case today. Going over to fill it up with gas, we use the same church key, so we just slide that to the right there and open that up, and there we can fill up with gas and close it back down. So I guess that helped prevent people from siphoning your gas, although gas was so cheap back then, I don't know. But, you know, presumably people did. Of course, one of the other notable characteristics of an early bus are the split windows. So it's got the split window here, and these windows just on this little, just a little twist right here. You can tighten it down or loosen it and adjust it as you'd like. The windshield wipers just kind of sit right here and work terribly. I mean, let's be honest, this is a really flimsy little windshield wiper. This is just not going to do much of anything. And something I would also mention is that the tires are so skinny that when I drive it on anything even close to a bumpy road, you can just feel the bus pulling in the direction of sort of pulling to the edges of the road, which doesn't instill confidence. This isn't a vehicle that I would personally drive on the highway at any speed. I mean, maybe if it was a really smooth highway, 45, 50, even that is going to be pushing it a little bit. So this gives you kind of a little bit of a walkthrough on the outside. And one of the things that I just love about the bus, I mean, I love the aesthetics of it. It's such an interesting vehicle. It's a lot of fun to drive. But, you know, these sliding windows right here, you know, this type of thing. We've got the sliding windows. We've got the door handle, it pulls like that. Window on the inside. One of these windows that you can kind of push out like this and push around to catch wind coming back in. And then as I sit in the bus, I mean, the first thing that I would say I notice, and this probably wouldn't just be me, but it's tight quarters. I mean, it really is. It's tight. The steering wheel is tight right up to my kind of chest here. And as I sit, my eye line is basically, this is where my head is. So my head is like right here. So I kind of have to slouch down like this to really be able to see out. Either slouch down, you know, so I can either slouch down like this, or I can kind of hunch over like this, which is often what I do, because at least when I'm hunched over, my feet are still well above the pedals. Looking down at my feet, you'll see that we've got the clutch on the left and brake and gas on the right, which, you know, of the steering column, which is a little unusual. This is the button for high beams, low beams. And then, of course, we've got this long gear shift right here, which is very easy to use. First, second, third, down to fourth. Emergency brake right here, which is on. And right down below, we've got our fuse panel right there. And, you know, it's a simple bus. And one of the things that people loved about them is that they were really easy to work on. As a kind of stock, low-optioned vehicle, no radio. We've got an ashtray. Came with an ashtray. No gas gauge. So I'm always sort of in the habit of filling it up frequently and just making sure it's filled up, but it's got no gas gauge. 2,800 miles, that would have been a replaced odometer or a reset odometer at the time of the restoration. Right here, pull this and you can see we've got the windshield wipers trying to go. So they just swing back and forth. They've got almost no power at all. Push that back in. This is my lights. So I've got parking lights, and then I've got driving lights, and then down to the bottom, the high beams. The little light right here does light up blue when you've got your high beams on. When I turn the key, it's red, and then green on this side, and then I start it, and the red goes out. But the red will come back on. I think that might be oil pressure. Small clock. To lock the door, you push it down like that, so now it's locked from the outside. And the only real modification to this car was to add seatbelts. In 1961, seatbelts were not, these just did not come equipped with seatbelts. Nice little rear view mirror here. We've got, of course, our screws, so I can tighten or loosen if I want to close the window. And up here we've got another fan as well, which is still working. So that gives you a little bit of a walk through the inside of the bus. And oop, don't forget about the horn. Little beep beep. I had a neighbor when I was growing up, one neighbor who had a Volkswagen bus, a red one, like this, but I don't remember if it was 23 window but very similar. It would have been from probably 60, I think it was a 63, a 67. And then I had another neighbor who had a Beetle, and he would work on the Beetle a lot in his yard, and you'd hear the ram ram of him tuning the engine and trying to get it running smoothly. And that was kind of like early on, I was like, man, that engine sounds really cool. It just has a really unique sound. I had another friend with a Carmen Ghia, and he used to drive that around in California as his daily driver. And you know, and he would work on it himself, and it was such a cool car and relatively easy enough to work on. And that's part of what made these cars so popular. You know, yeah, you probably wanted to keep a little toolkit in the back just in case, something happened. You maybe had to flood the engine, had to clear out the spark plugs or something like that. But generally speaking, these were fairly easy to drive and fairly easy to work on, which I think a lot of young folks in the 60s and 70s loved. That ability to be self-sufficient, to drive a car that you can fix yourself, to learn how to fix things. It's such an awesome sense of accomplishment when even for me, when I repaired the fuse panel, or when I was working on the brakes. I mean, they're fun things, and it feels like you're adding to your kind of set of skills. And I think that the people that took these buses across country, keeping in mind that I know the Cannonball records happened this year, and I think what was the Cannonball record from New York to California? Like 26 hours or something like that. So, the thought of driving cross country in 26 hours or whatever it is, I mean, if you want to drive across country in this bus at 40 miles an hour, it's going to take you a couple of weeks. I mean, it's going to take time. It's going to be an experience, and that's the life on the road. And I think that's what makes this car so iconic. It's part of that. It's part of that Americana. It's part of that dream that so many people live. Jack Kerouac, the Dharma Bums, on the road, and it's a cultural icon in a lot of ways. And so when I drive it around, I really think that people connect to that, and they see it and are instantly reminded of that. And so it's a really fun car to own and to drive around. And you know what? It's a great car for the family too. I have a car seat that I pop right here. My son and I go out for a ride. When I put in the seat belts, I put them in the front. I wasn't able to install any in the back just because of the position from the floor, and also not wanting to break the seal of when it was restored. So the only seat belts are right here up front. And so my son sits right there. We open the window, we go for a drive, we go look at some of the airplanes, and he takes a nap, and then we go to one of the farms and pet some of the animals. And it's a great car for the kind of Sunday cruise. Rev Match Downshift, round the turn. Here we go, dirt road. This is the road where I had a little fun with the 1969 Corvette. And, let's just see, just out of curiosity, just to see whether or not I can kick up any dirt. All right. Yeah, I got a little bit, just a little bit. I did the best I could. Ooh, what is that? Is that a little kitty cat? It's black. Black cat crossing my tracks. A little nervous. All right, well, let's approach with caution. That could be a Jaguar, I don't know. Ooh, getting nervous. It's not really crossing my path though. We're kind of both going the same direction. Maybe that's good luck. So one of the things that's kind of interesting here, I'm only going like 15 miles an hour, maybe 18 miles an hour, but the wind that starts to come through these windows is, it really picks up. And when you get up to 25, 35, 45 miles an hour, you need to wear goggles because the wind is coming right at your face. It's not like a convertible with a windshield that protects you from the wind from the front and it kind of runs over you. This is just right at you. Having said that, obviously this is a car that did not have and does not have air conditioning. So on a hot summer day, it does feel good to open these windows as long as you're not trying to go really fast. Because if you do try to go fast with the windows open, it does feel like it kind of really is a blast right at your face. Again, I often take the position of being a little slouched, but the views out the front windows are great. Really can experience more of the area that you're driving, which is one of those things that I've talked about before with old cars, because with new cars your windows are closed, it's climate controlled, and sometimes being able to smell the wildflowers and it feels like it's about to rain, and kind of that smell before it's going to start raining, it's a way of feeling a little bit more connected with where you're at, and this bus does a good job of that. A little Rev Match Downshift. There we go. Full out, all throttle. To third. Oh, we got a sign that says go slow. Let's do it down. See, this is funny. I've done this a number of times. I go from third and I'm trying to go to second, and I find myself in fourth. Let's just be a little tight there. But honestly, aside from that, it's a little loose, but it's very easy to drive. Even if you've never driven a manual transmission. Here, I'll give you a quick lesson. Never driven a manual transmission once in your life. Let me get this camera up. All right, I'll get my feet view. All right, so we've got the clutch right there. Oh, let's put it in first. First gear, clutch right there. Start pulling it out real slow, real slow, real slow. Now it's all the way out. Just put your foot on the gas. Easy, just like that. So come back down to a stop. Now we're on a little bit of an incline here. So we've got a little bit of an incline, just a little bit of gas, foot off the pedal, just like that. Now do a shift down to second, down to second. No big deal, super easy. It's not like some of the newer cars that I have that are, honestly, even my 1963 Corvette, not nearly as easy to drive as this. The clutch is heavy and engages really fast. And the problem with that is when you're still kind of getting, comfortable, like let's just say, if I'm gonna brake with my left foot here, you start braking with your left foot and you're jamming on the brakes. You're not accustomed to the sensitivity of the pedal when you try to drive with your left foot, for instance. And so someone just learning how to drive a stick shift naturally is not going to be as sensitive with those subtle adjustments on the clutch, and therefore is much more likely to stall out the car, especially in the case, I'll just adjust that camera, especially in the case of a car that has a really tight clutch, for instance, the 1963 Corvette. So this is easy to drive, and so is the so are the Porsches of this same era. So this was the second classic car that I bought. The first one being the 1969 Ford Mustang. These are two very different cars, no doubt about that. But I, of course, like them both in different ways. What appeals to me about this car is just how unique it is, how fun it is to drive. Of course, as you drive around, people are waving to you, and everyone loves seeing it. It's like a gift for me. Every time I drive it, I'm giving a gift to all the people that get to check it out, because not every day you see a 23 window bus. So it's really a pleasure to drive. The Mustang is an amazing classic American muscle car, but this is something much more unique. And then the fact that it's easy to drive, it's not intimidating, it doesn't make me nervous. When I first started the 1969 Ford Mustang, I had the nerves like when I first ran a chainsaw. You know, I was nervous. This is a lot of car, it's a lot of engine. This is casual, it's nice, it's great for cruising around, you get to wave to people. See, that guy, he didn't want to wave. That's fine, that's fine. Not everyone's gonna wave, but you know, you get a good number of people that wave. All right, so so we'll stop here at the stop sign. And actually, maybe I'll run down this way. Actually, no, I'll go right across. Okay, there we go. Should we do a 0 to 60? Well, I can tell you, number one, that we're not going to get to 60. All right, here we go. Pedal to the metal. Pedal to the metal. We're at 28. I'm going to ease off a little bit. The road's getting a little bumpy. So we hit 30. It's not too quick. That's okay. So with this car, this for me was really interesting because I'd kind of wanted one, and I was like, oh, that'd be such a fun car to have. And I got one. I started driving around, and I was like, I love it. I love everything about it. I love the way it drives. I love the way it feels. I love the windows. And I love the way I don't love the way it steers, but I love the transmission. It's very easy. It doesn't feel fragile. Some cars feel fragile. I'm almost nervous that I'm going to break it. I don't really feel that way with this car. I feel like it's fairly solid. And so that made me think, well, if I like it, like I'm enjoying it this much, maybe I should try getting a Porsche. And so one of the next cars I bought was a 62 356 Porsche. Very similar engine, similar sound, similar transmission, and a similarly awesome experience to drive. It doesn't stand out in the same way that this stands out. It's not. I mean, I think some people notice it, but this is very, very iconic. Those ones are not as iconic, but very nice to drive. And arguably, all of these vehicles, unlike purchasing a brand new car, are, in the collector's market, hold value. And whether it's the value to make it available for someone that wants to rent the car for a commercial or a TV show or a movie, or the value of just over time increasing in value. What is good about them for the most part is that although you get some depreciation just from the fact of every mile that you drive, you put a little wear on the engine and the tires and scratches, things like that. It's already depreciated, certainly from when it was purchased new. So now it's at a point where it'll hold its value, again, based on how it's treated and how it's used, and the overall market will fluctuate as markets for these types of things do. But really, just such a fun car to drive around in, and I would say on my list for other Volkswagen buses, I would be super into a pass-through, a walk-through bus with 2 captain's chairs. I think that would be a nice bus to have. I'm not against a 21 window, a little bit later down the model, years, 64 to 67 or something like that. I'd be fine with that. And in some of those cars that are a little bit later, you also get the benefit of some general improvements in the way they were built and everything else. So there are certainly some advantages to some of the cars and that are like 66, 67. So I would keep an open an open eye for anything like that I saw. Well, I pulled over for a second. I was gonna fly the drone and then it started to sprinkle. So I'm gonna get the drone flight on another day. And oh, let's pop the emergency brake off. Get that in gear. Okay, we're good. There we go. We're just in a little bit of a dip. And we'll head back out. And since I don't have windshield wipers, I'm gonna have to take it a little slow. All right, back on pavement. Oh, that's so much smoother. Okay, blinker on, yes. Wheel turning, yes. All right. There we go. Pedal to the metal, you can hear that nice purr. And into third gear. So, this is the first time I've driven the car in the rain, but the road, while wet, is not withstanding water, so shouldn't really be too much of an issue there. UPS truck. All right, I'm gonna close this up. Take a little right-hand turn here. You can see my hunched stance. So I guess I would conclude by saying that if you were looking for a fun car for a Sunday drive that you can fit the whole family in, 1961 or anything up to 67 would be a great bus. It really is a lot of fun. I think the kids really enjoy it, and people that you see along the way, they really enjoy it. It's a conversation starter. You know, everyone's like, oh, what year is that? It's so cool. And it's not only cool to look at, it's a lot of fun to drive. If I could have just one extra car in my garage, you know, this is a tempting one to have because it, you know, on the one hand has the benefits of the convertible, but then it's still great it's totally fine in the rain. The only drawback is that, you know, it's just not a car for taking on the highway or for taking a real serious trip in. You know, you could drive it an hour. I don't worry about it not starting or anything like that. It's mechanically, that's not the issue. It's just the safety side of things that it doesn't handle the bumpy roads well. When you get it up to speed, it does not instill confidence. And, you know, so all of that is a good reason to say that while it's a fun car to cruise around on, you know, on Saturday or Sunday or whatever the case is, or, you know, any day of the week around town, it may not be the best car for you depending on, you know, kind of what your lifestyle is and where you live and things like that. I think for me it's great, but I could see how it wouldn't be perfect for everyone. Nice person wanting to wave. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this ride in the 1961 Volkswagen bus, 1.2 liter, 1200cc with 40 horsepower. Woo! It's kitten purrs. It's a fun car to drive, and I hope at some point you guys all get a chance to go for a ride in one of these because it is really a fun experience. And I wouldn't mind having another one in my garage at some point. So if you see another episode of Tire Kickers in another bus, don't be totally shocked. These are special cars. They're really cool. And in the last 5 years, last 10 years, they've really increased in value quite a lot. Some of them are going for astronomical amounts of money. And I'm fortunate to have gotten this one when I got it. And we'll look for another one if I see a good deal. All right, well, I'm up to highway speed, so I'm gonna keep going, and I'll see you guys for the next episode of Tire Kickers.
What's up, everyone? All right, well, if you made it to the end of this video, you must also be a tire kicker just like me. So hit that subscribe button and come over to tirekickers.com to check out some articles that I've written about some of my favorite cars, including that 23 window 1961 VW bus.